A workout plan, may that be a business plan.
Almost the time. Only at IMAX.
All right, beautiful people. Here's Anca Platon Trifan, host of Events Demystified podcast, CEO and event strategist for Trifan Events, as well as onto a brand new adventure, the mental and physical fitness coach behind Fit Mindful Maven, which is where the boardroom meets the gym room, only in a more zen setting.
Welcome to Events Demystified podcast, where we explore and demystify the world of in-person, virtual, hybrid event AV production and technology by sharing insightful tips, tricks and tactics to make your events a success. This podcast is brought to you by Trifan Events, a woman-owned boutique event production agency. And your host is Anca Trifan, a technical event planner and producer with almost 2 decades of hands-on technical experience in event production.
So I just came from IMAX. I am not set up to do this recording. I'm actually in between 2 gym sessions. My next competition is coming up. So I've got a morning session, I got an afternoon session. I'm on very little macros right now. So I might be just going on and on this rant. Hopefully not. I'm trying to stick to the topic because I want to provide a resource for anyone joining IMAX for the very first time. I have joined IMAX for the very first time a few moons ago and years. And I remember being so overwhelmed. This year in Vegas, there has been actually a record high attendance. There's been over 17,000 people registering, and I believe over 15,000 made it in person. And out of those, 30 to 40% were actually attending IMAX for the very first time, which means that is quite a high percentile for people to be joining a trade show that is quite popular. And it's surprising to me that a lot of people haven't heard about it, especially people from our industry. Okay. So that's always kind of interesting to me to find many people that, you connect with on LinkedIn. If you ask them if they attended IMAX before, they would say, no, what is that? So anyway, long story short with this intro, my goal was to go on site, experience IMAX again, but look at it from a first timer's lens, and then interview a few IMAX veterans that have been attended IMAX for many years, anywhere between I would say 3 to, I believe Tahira is the one that has attended IMAX from the very beginnings, and just ask them 2 simple questions. It was actually 1 simple question that turned into 2 simple questions that turned into a push-up challenge. So nothing is just easy, okay? When it comes to events, there's always some add-on. So that's basically what that has been like. So some of my key takeaways, I first wanted to bring up the fact that if you have not attended a show of the caliber that IMAX is, you must have a game plan. You can't just show up and hope for the best. I did that the first year I attended IMAX, but I was an attendee. So I wasn't a hosted buyer. I wasn't there to be part of the meetings. I just wanted to attend it and get a feeling of it to see if there was something that I was going to want to be involved at another level. Now I'm also a speaker at IMAX. I have spoken at IMAX few different shows in a row. So I'm very grateful that I got to this place in just a few years time because of the connections that I've made, very intentional connections that I've made over a few years. I just made it my goal to get in front of the people that matter. So that is something that I will start with from the get-go. Make a game plan. Have a list of people that you want to meet. Start connecting with them online first before you even hit the trade show floor to just establish a bit of that relationship. And how do you do that? Obviously, you go on LinkedIn, you can go on social media like X, Threads, Instagram. But I feel like LinkedIn is the best place to connect with people professionally, especially people from our industry. Comment on their posts, engage with their content, and just be present in the conversations that matter, because that's how you establish rapport with people that otherwise you wouldn't just have access to. You go to a show like IMAX and you want to talk to, say, Julius Solaris. He is a very sought after person. So his time frame to meet new people is very limited. So you're not going to just, run into him and start having this very long-winded conversation, because he won't have the bandwidth for it. It's hard when you're pulled in all directions, when you're speaking on so many stages, and you still want to meet and make connections with people that you might have not met before, or just old partners, associates, acquaintances that you want to reconnect with. So that's the number one. Second is get a lay of the land. Basically, look at that map and try to figure out where you want to go. So, like, my strategy this year has been, since there is an app, there is a way for you to, again, as a hosted buyer, there's certain number of meetings that I had to connect with. Those are people that I am interested in connecting anyway. So I made sure that I booked my meetings, and there is 3 days to book meetings. You have Tuesday, you have Wednesday, and you have Thursday. Although technically Thursday is a bit of more of a slower day. You're gonna see a lot of the trade show booths coming down towards the end. Everybody kind of wants to, unwind and go home because it's been a very long week. If you start with day one, which is technically day zero, that is Smart Monday. And what that is a full day of education, of sessions, of all kinds of different hubs and activations as well. I have missed the innovation hub that I normally attend on Smart Monday, as well as the Smart Women meetings on Smart Monday. That is my biggest regret this year, because when I booked my travel, I knew that I was going to be in Vegas for a long time, and I didn't feel like waking up at 5 a.m. to get on a flight and, be on the trade show floor, or at least in the educational section at 10 a.m. whenever it opened. I just wanted to take it slow, because Monday night I already had so many things on the schedule that I figured that if I come in a little later, I just check in and I register. It would be great to, just do the networking events and then start with my appointments and my meetings on Tuesday. Next year, I'll probably definitely, make a different plan where I do join some of those educational sessions. I definitely missed Miguel's Innovation Hub, and that's something that I always love to be part of. It's bright, it's smart, it's full of thought leaders in our industry, and it's just a nice place to connect and brainstorm with many of those people that you don't always get the chance to sit at one table with. So that's my biggest miss this year, along with a few other other ones, which I'm gonna go into a little bit later in this key takeaways of my review recap of what IMAX was for me this year. All right, other things I would do, for example, as I mentioned, get a lay of the land, make sure that you orientate yourself on in the app to know where you're going to be at any given time. That was my first like anxiety attack that I had the first time I attended IMAX. I remember going to my first meeting and running late because I just couldn't figure out which direction I needed to go. Now, I'm not usually a direction challenge person. I can find my way anywhere. I drive places without any problem, without a map. It's just in this specific setting, there are so many booths, there's so many people, there's so much overstimulation. And if you're in a pinch to get from this side of the trade show to the other side, and you haven't done that before, it can be overwhelming. And I hate being late. And I remember just feeling like this anxiety wave coming over me that, man, what a way to make an impression, be late at your first appointment of the day. And I hated that. Like I just had a hard time, processing. So I remember going, to one of the informational booths that they had and begging them to show me the way. Like point me in the right direction. I need to get to this booth number and I have no idea where to start. I feel like this year the app was way better. Apparently they had a different setup that was very much upgraded from last year. They had a crowd connect, which was installing all these beacons so that people could actually follow the map. So you almost like had this little GPS giving you directions where to go from point A to point B. They also had Expo. XP was the software that provided the map. And then they had some other AI tools like Zenix, which was constantly tracking the emotional output of everyone that was going about those areas and how they were feeling. So in that instance, my strategy for booking appointments would be to start, say, on day one and just book first quarter of that map. So if you want to meet with certain people, choose those appointments in the first part of the map. Then you do the second, and then you do the third if you want to divide it in thirds, or if you want to do it in quarters or corners, or maybe alphabetically. They have all these letters that are very visible, so you kind of know what section you're in. Also, according to Tahira, which I just realized when she said it, every part of the tree show is actually geographically mapped out. So if you want to be meeting someone in, say, Asia geographical location, all of the vendors would be in that area. So just make a plan, whatever works for you. That's my number one piece of advice here. As a speaker, I felt a bit of this in Frankfurt as well, because I attended IMAX in Frankfurt in May. And I kind of took a bit too much upon myself. I had all these appointments. Then I was emceeing several sessions in different parts of the trade show floor. And then I was also speaking. So constantly running in between the sections of where the education section was, with where the appointments were taking place. And again, I'm speaking about Frankfurt right now. That was quite a workout. I definitely got a lot of steps in, but also felt so exhausting. This time in Vegas, the trade show layout was a little bit more cohesive. I actually liked it way better. Yes, they had the educational section at what end of the trade show. It was actually a very beautiful, large section of the trade show. It was called the Inspiration Hub, and it had different topics. It was divided in multiple different things. The wellness wheel is where I was speaking at, and they had Google XI for a lot of the neurodiverse attendees that wanted more of that type of education and interaction. One of the funnest parts there was Jack, the potty scientist. I've actually been on his podcast just recently, and he's quite a character. I actually love his energy. He was there during our 5K IMAX run with this huge speaker just running down Las Vegas Boulevard. And he was definitely getting his workout in, but it was just so fantastic to see that energy. He was pumping people up. He was, asking for hugs and high fives and just having that joyful interaction. So that was great. Again, as a speaker, as a hosted buyer, and I've also been asked to MC, but this time I had enough self control to say no to that part, because if you ask me to do something, I will always give it my best and I will always take on more than I maybe should. And I don't just deliver, in small ways. I deliver all the way. So I had to look at my schedule and take a step back and just remember, how exhausted I was after Frankfurt, and put some boundaries around my mental health and my well-being. And obviously I was speaking on flexing success, powerlifting your business with mental and physical fitness, and I'm like, if I don't do what I preach, how am I gonna, stand in front of all these people and tell them to do all those things when I'm not doing that myself? So it was important to me to set those boundaries. And I think that was a really good thing. And it's something that we should all learn how to do for ourselves. I think the more you grow in this industry and the more you realize that you can live from this abundance mindset, in the sense that things will come back. Just because you said no to a great opportunity doesn't mean it's just going to disappear. It's going to come back to you. So I had to learn to say no and be okay with doing less, but still enjoying the fullness of what it was offered. And even so, I still felt a little bit like FOMO when it came to some of the sessions that were taking place. Like, I felt like I missed on so many good sessions because I was basically doing all these booked appointments, and I wanted to be present for those appointments. I wanted to do my duty as a hosted buyer and make those suppliers' time valuable. I was looking for particular connections and partnerships to be made. So I definitely had an agenda on that side. But at the same time, I felt like there were so many good sessions and a lot of people that I know that were presenting that I just could not fit in this busy appointment schedule. And I wish there was a way to do that better next year. So I'm definitely going to work on that myself. I love the fact that they had the ability to, if you missed a session on a Tuesday, for example, I presented on a Tuesday and Wednesday. If you missed my session on Tuesday, you could come on Wednesday. Or if you couldn't make it on Wednesday, you could come on Tuesday. So you could definitely wiggle your schedule a bit to accommodate for some of the sessions that you would add to your schedule. I really appreciated the fact that I could block some times so I have a bit of bandwidth, even as, I was standing in front of those people that attended my session. I wanted to come in with fresh energy, clear mind, and not just completely wiped out after running the facial floor left and right for several meetings prior to my session. So strategy goes a very long way.
Before we move any further, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our main sponsor, Trifan Events, which is a boutique event planning and production agency that will come alongside you, offering personalized event planning and technical support, strategic event design, production and technology management, and flawless execution for live, virtual, and hybrid events. The team at Trifan Events is passionate about planning and producing event experiences that get people involved with true moments of interaction, engagement, and co-creation, while offering white glove treatment throughout the entire planning process, enabling you to reach your event goals with the use of creativity, production tools, and event technology. To find out how Trifan Events can plan and produce your event become memorable, go to trifanevents.com.
Something else that I wanted to mention here. Yes, a lot of the things that won't be on that schedule that you're receiving, as the days lead into the event day, are going to be activations or networking events that are after hours. And that was one thing that actually has started this whole episode. My good friend Huang with Shala Events, she has attended IMAX for the very first time this year. And she was texting me the days prior to going to IMAX about fun things that I'm doing. And it didn't cross my mind up until that moment that someone that hasn't attended IMAX before, they wouldn't know that there's so many opportunities for networking or all those things happening all over the place, or they wouldn't be invited to some of those things because they are not on the radar with some of the DMCs or larger brands that were basically sponsoring some of those after hours. So I gave her a list of the things that I was doing, and then she asked a few other connections of ours. And then Jonathan at Excel Events, he created a list, which I thought it was so smart. And I'm like, how come I didn't think about it? So he shared that list on his website prior to IMAX week. And a lot of people actually found that super helpful because now they kind of had a clue of what's happening, what are some things that people are doing after hours. Because otherwise, you might be leaving the trade show floor and feeling like you're missing out on a lot of opportunities to connect with people after the meetings because you don't know about those networking opportunities. So one of those opportunity was, for example, the meet time that Dahlia has set up in collaboration with women behind the scenes in event productions. Dahlia represents women in tech and also with women exhibitors, I believe. And we had this block of time every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 4:30 to 5:30, just at the tail end of all the meetings, where we could all connect around, Dahlia's booth and make new introductions, meet in person if up to that point we only knew each other online, and just have an opportunity and a place for people to connect. Same thing has happened with the event profs community. Will Current was leading that initiative, and I believe they even went outside of the conference center to some art gallery. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it because here's another thing that was kind of, hard to navigate, I guess, this year. Vegas is prepping for the Formula One race, and there's so much construction at this time downtown, everywhere on the strip. There's roads that are closed. So just taking a Uber from this one location to another location, it would take double the time. And if you wanted to leave one a networking event and go to another one that was offsite, you would realize that you just didn't have the time. And I was constantly in between multiple events that were happening, or they were just kind of happening back to back. And if they were happening outside of Mandalay Bay or Delano, I unfortunately had to just say no. Like, I mean, the only one I went to was the Sphere for this show that they had, private showing of their facilities for event professionals. We got to go through the VIP entrance. That was fantastic. And we had a bit of a happy hour. And then, we went and saw the show with everyone else, which was kind of interesting because, we were behind the scenes. We were in this elevated space that they were showing us with the opportunity for events to take place there. And we had some drinks, we had some hors d'oeuvres, and then they're like, okay, now we're gonna go into seeing the show Postcard from Earth. What we didn't realize is that they are gonna just send us into the main space where everyone was. I remember actually getting into the main space and just being, 100% stolen by the view. There's a lot of AI robots that you can talk to. You have one for connection, one for emotion, one for longevity. I mean, there's a lot to take in, a lot of LED screens, a lot of activations in that large space of theirs. So just as I'm, taking it all in, the group I was with just disappeared. And now I'm in the middle of this crowd of people that are waiting for the show to start. And I have no idea where the rest of the people were that I came in with. So that was a bit of like, oh my gosh, I'm lost. Like, where am I going from here? Like, it took me a while to find my bearings, find my people, and then just enjoy some of the activations, ask some questions of those AI robots. and take some videos, pictures, all the things, right? Before the show. The show was amazing. I recommend that if you're in Vegas, you must see a show in the Sphere. I did not see U2. I've heard amazing things about it from event professionals and also from people that I would meet in the Uber ride that would just come from the shows. Someone just came all the way from New York to just see this show in Vegas. And I thought that was like next level fan. So anyway, that was beautiful. At the same time, the time that it took to just get there, it was double the amount of time that normally would take you to go anywhere in Vegas. So it's something to keep in mind. And apparently this is going to be a reoccurring problem because Formula One is going to be there for this 10-year contract every fall season, I believe. I don't know if it's end of October, every October for the next 10 years or something like that. Anyway, there's a lot of construction that is being built for this event. Let's see what else. I thought the booth design on the trade show floor was okay. I was actually quite disappointed with the technology side of things. I felt like that was smaller than what I expected and what I've seen in previous years. Also, most of the LED screens, like high tech displays for booths, were not in the technology part of the trade show, which was interesting. Is like, okay, so this is the tech section, but there's nothing techy about it here. That was quite interesting to note. I love the fact that they did have quite a few activations as you were walking your way into the trade show, opportunities to take those amazing pictures and selfies and videos, like 360 videos in some environments that were quite attractive and pleasant. A workout plan, may that be a business plan, you have to have smart goals.
Counting up. That was almost a tie. Only at IMAX.
During the session where I was Innovation Lab, I thought that that was amazing to just have a place to chill. But at the same time, it felt like very loud. There were stages that were not silent stages, and that was quite distractive for anyone attending a silent stage or anyone that wanted to just stay there for a moment to catch their breath. Apparently, there were quite a few different places where you could do that. One thing I know for sure, I have not taken advantage of the hosted by lounge much because I was constantly running to my next appointment, meeting people, finding food. I had to chase that a bit more this year just because of my training. And that meant walking longer distances to a restaurant or a cafe that would have more options for me. According to Tahira, this is information that is based on what she shared during the recording that I had post IMAX with her and David Stevens for his Return on Wellness show, which I happen to be producing. And we had Tahira sit down with David, and they were talking about IMAX, kind of like the IMAX hangover. So they were discussing the opportunities for wellness, and apparently there was no wellness lounge this year like had in Frankfurt. However, there are different opportunities for well-being, such as places for quiet time and also a resilience room where you could just go and put some headphones on and listen to music, a weighted blanket, especially if you have issues with a sensory type of sensitivity. So that was amazing. Unfortunately, I had no idea where it was, nor did I take advantage of it. Kind of beat myself up for that now because it sounds amazing. Could have been the one little tiny break that I needed just to detox from the noise. I am an ambivert, so I say that because I do love people. I get energized by crowds and people, but at the same time, I love my quiet time, and I need that in order to be able to be an extrovert. So I felt like constantly depleted, felt like I was constantly, tapping into my reserves, and that felt, a little bit tiring. So having had the resilience room or knowing that that exists would have been very helpful. So I would suggest maybe next year to have marketed in a bigger way, because I looked at the map, I figure out where I wanted to be, but I didn't necessarily realize that there are certain things outside of where the trade show was. It could have been good to navigate towards and explore more of, like this resilience amazing room that I just happened to hear about post IMAX. Lighting wise, in my area where I was delivering my talk on flexing success, powerlifting your business with mental and physical fitness, which by the way, now that talk is available on YouTube. So if you missed it, don't sweat it. The recording is available. The only caveat to that is because of the lighting that was in this space, dark blue LED lighting with little stage lights, the recording looks a bit crappy. I was looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like a home video. It's the only recording that I have, so I'm gonna have to put it out there, even though the quality of it, especially my GoPro, didn't like that lighting at all. And I had actually additional lighting that I brought in, panels of LEDs. I wanted to have good lighting because I knew that's, obviously critical for a good recording, video recording. So yeah, it didn't come out as good as I expected. It is what it is. Audio is great. So if you close your eyes and just listen, maybe, that's enough. Visually, it just feels like the video could have been way better. Again, that was the big disclaimer about that. You can certainly go and get those essential insights that I shared. And now, since I'm kind of coming to time here, I probably could go on and on about this. To recap some of the things that I've been saying, if you're going to go to IMAX for the first time, from my point of view, you want to have a plan, have a game plan. Make sure that you know where you're going or whom you're planning to meet with, and make a list, check it twice, stick to it, and maybe even add to it. But have a list, because without a list, without a plan, it's going to be very easy to get overwhelmed. Another thing, if you are training like me, I didn't even mention this, I travel with my protein powder. And that was a saver for me to get enough protein in my diet, because there's food options, but there's really not a lot of food options. So one thing that I was going to mention as well here, if you are a supplier and you have a booth and you have meetings that are happening over lunchtime, please do me a favor and have some protein bars for anyone that is meeting with you, so they can get some nutrients. Because for example, I had many appointments that were happening over lunch, so I technically had to skip lunch and had my protein powder with me. I had a shake and I had my water. Again, stay hydrated, so important. Thank you, IMAX, for providing all of those refillable water stations. That was fantastic because I knew that I wanted my water. I actually even put like pre-workout so I could just keep on going, like the like the Energizer Bunny, and having a shake, a protein shake. So as I'm going and doing the rounds for all my appointments, that was crucial for my nutrition. there are just not enough food options if you are on a very strict macro diet. Even like the food options that they had in the hosted buyer lounge, I mean, the line to food during lunchtime was miles long. I barely had a 30-minute break. Just to stay in that line alone would have been impossible for me. So I ended up avoiding that space during lunchtime. It wasn't practically, logistically able to get nutrition there. So maybe more food stations, maybe other options. I know that having protein powder with me will always be my backup plan. And then figure out what are the sessions that you want to attend. Make sure that you add them to your calendar, plan your meetings around those sessions so you don't feel like you miss out on important education. Also consult with other peers. Like, I love what Huang did, that she asked me about all of those opportunities, because if I'm not in that first timer shoes, I might not even think about the fact that someone doesn't even know that there's like 3 different networking events on Monday and another 3 on Tuesday and another big one on Wednesday. All of those little things that don't always make it on the schedule, right? On the main agenda. So definitely ask of everyone that has been there before. And with that, actually, I want to share the interview that I did with 8 industry professionals during IMAX trade show hours. You're going to hear from Julius, you're going to hear from Lisa, Miguel, David, Tahira, Sepideh, Leanne, and Martin. This is not the order that I'm going to have them all set up, but you're going to hear their top tips for anyone attending IMAX for the very first time, as well as one item or few items that they won't travel without. Like, for example, for me is my Uline Nespresso machine. I know you might be, what? Yes, I pack my Uline espresso machine with me. I have my espresso pods, and I never have to be sitting in a very long Starbucks line waiting for my coffee early in the morning, or paying, an astronomical price for one Americano, which should not cost that much. Those are the days that we live in. So for me, bringing that with me, even if it means, checking in my bag, that's my one item I won't travel without when I go to Vegas to any trade show, any event whatsoever, especially if I am hosted in a resort. That's my go to. So I would love to hear your feedback. If you have other thoughts, if you're listening to this, if you made it all the way here. Also, many, many thanks to the IMAX team, the speaker team. Tahira, you're amazing. Oh, did you know? Fun fact, Tahira can leg press over 400 pounds. Like, that is crazy. I know how long it took me to leg press 525 pounds, and I was like, respect, because that is not easy. All my respect to you, Tahira. Thank you to the entire IMAX team. I hope I did you justice, and I hope that this is something that we can build upon. Again, all the feedback I had feels a little scattered, but really it comes from my deep respect for this trade show. I will always be a fan of IMAX, and I hope to come again, and I hope to speak again. Just have this opportunity to meet so many amazing industry experts, top level professionals, and thought leaders is really, it's my go-to conference every single year. I won't miss it for anything in the world. So with that, please keep on watching, as I will be adding those different clips that were recorded in Vegas. And I hope that you take some of those takeaways and implement them for years to come. Julius Solaris,
Yeah.
the king of IMAX.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Don't
gosh.
tell IMAX.
Okay, so here's one question that I have for you, because done IMAX how many times now?
This is my 11th year.
Oh my goodness.
Frankfurt and Vegas.
You top the leaderboard. So if you were to do this for the first time, what would you do differently if this was your first show? And what would you pack that you can't go anywhere without? Yeah.
Well, I feel like, first off, like if you show up at IMAX like without any plan, you're already kind of late, to the game.
game.
It's like, you gotta have a plan. You gotta study the program. You gotta understand. You gotta ask questions to the team. Like
Yeah.
the IMAX team is so great.
Yeah.
Nobody asks questions. Like obviously, if you're a buyer, you have kind of a program
Right.
anyway that you have to stick to. If you're an exhibitor, you're like here to exhibit. But like if you're a visitor, like non-buyer visitor, just make a
The
plan.
world is your oyster,
Right.
and it can feel overwhelming
Make a
if you
plan.
don't have the plan, right?
Make a plan. What sessions are you going to go to? What booths do you need to visit? What activities you're going to go and do? So make a plan. Second, what you're going to travel with, mouth spray, not candy, mouth spray.
Actual spray.
Yeah, because like
you
people
have
like
some
day trade.
natural
Oh my
formula?
god! Like
You have a natural formula?
I don't have a natural formula
Okay.
for that. I just
Peppermint?
buy one. I buy one. There's like they sell them at CVS.
Okay, all right.
Just get one of those.
If you're gonna speak to people, don't get too close
I
unless
like,
like
day three, oh my God, right? After the party, not good. So that's that. And then lip balm for
Okay.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Very good. Always
lipstick.
good.
I'll take lipstick.
Yeah, do that.
All right.
Yeah.
So those are your must-haves. Can't go without, and that game plan must-have.
Make it
Okay,
good.
for our audience, if they been living under a rock and don't know who you are, would you say your name, who you are with, and where they can find
I'm
you?
Julius Solaris, and I'm Julius Solaris with Julius Solaris. That's it. So Google me, and you'll find out more about me.
And then is LinkedIn your platform?
LinkedIn, yeah, LinkedIn is the. Is
You
where
don't trend
is
a
where-
lot. That's why I'm not sure anymore.
Can we curse on this? LinkedIn is where people give me shit every day. That's where I love to be. So find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you. That was that.
Do it.
Oh, nice. Lisa,
So good to
what a
see you.
pleasure to see you. I feel like I just literally ran into you at a different trade show.
We saw each other in Minneapolis. and then
Yes.
also in Salt Lake City.
Yes. World travelers, what can I tell you? Okay,
I
so
know.
here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Because you've been to IMAX how many times now?
This is my third IMAX.
Okay, that you got some experience under your belt.
Right now.
You know, actually, I think that your most experience is in so many other trade shows.
Yeah.
The IMAX is just the cherry on top for you. I feel like
Right.
you've been to so many different trade shows. So here's my question to you. If this was your first time attending a trade show,
Yeah.
what would you do differently from all the times you've done it? Maybe the right way, maybe the, I don't know how many things I forgot way, you know?
Yeah.
So give me your best tips.
Yeah, a couple tips. So, I like to use LinkedIn. I would say
Yes.
for anyone new,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to attend alone or just with a couple friends, get on LinkedIn prior to the event, start making some connections, look for other people posting, hey, I'm going to IMEX. And then you already have kind of a posse going in for people to meet. So I know it's so hard to make new friends.
And you know what? It's the best way to also be intentional
Yeah.
about connecting with the right people. Because I mean, you could connect with so many different people. So
Yeah.
do you have a criteria that you use? This is the people I'm planning to reach. That sort of like game plan.
Yeah, well, I guess, I'm in sales and I work for an AV company. So I'm typically looking to connect with corporate event planners and people that could possibly, use our services. But, again, connecting with anyone is just fun. So that's another tip I would say, and I'm not doing this correctly today, is wear comfy shoes because it's a lot of walking.
Like this is where this is like
This
it's
is-
like
This
does
is not how to
Anca-
do it.
Does Anca have any other shoes? Yes.
So-
Hikers.
A lot of walking. And then third, just make sure to, take breaks and don't go too hard on the first day because it's easy. There's drinks. There's so much going on. You're going to wear yourself
I
out.
did not take that advice for myself yesterday.
I totally get it. And I'm preaching to the choir here because I've done it more than once.
One last question. What's in your suitcase that you could not go without?
Good question. Yeah, just comfort, comfortable
Okay.
clothes. It's comfort and it's style at once. So anything that's, stretchy and comfortable.
I love it.
Yeah.
Can I tell you mine?
Yes, I want to hear what
Tell
yours is.
anyone.
What is it?
Nespresso coffee machine and coffee pots.
I can't believe you bring that with
I
you.
do.
That's
It's
amazing.
literally like this small, but it's
That's
the
so
best thing since sliced bread because
Yep.
how many times have you been in this long Starbucks line
I
that
saw it
is
out there.
miles?
There's no way I'm going to stand in that line.
No.
And the hotel coffee?
No, exactly. So that's my best tip I'm gonna give anyone that comes, especially in Vegas. I feel like
Yes.
a lot of boutique hotels actually would have good coffee.
Yep. Maybe not
Vegas
here.
Resort,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And then
Thanks,
just for
Anca.
our audience, would you say your name, your position, and where they can find you?
Yes, my name is Lisa Mendenhall Johnson. I am with IDCOM. We're an audiovisual production agency out of Minneapolis. And like I mentioned, find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend the most of my time.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thanks, Anca. Great to see you.
Martin, how are you doing? It's last day of IMAX.
For
You've done it all. Are you energized or are you so tired?
I'm tired, right? But it's not so much. It's because I just didn't sleep. I would wake up at a certain time and then stuff would be on my brain and I'll be ready to do it all over again. So I just think I can't have good sleep at IMAX. Maybe that's just something that's not going to happen for me.
It's so funny because somebody was asking me about that. Like, how do you sleep well when you attend IMAX? And I'm like, you don't.
Right. That's what I just think that was what my plan was I'm going to get some good sleep. I'm going to make sure, and it's not that I didn't, I stayed up super late or I was just doing it. It's just, man, you go to sleep when you go to sleep and you wake up when you wake up and then you get right back to it.
That's right. Okay, so here's one question that I was asking a few of the, IMAX attendee veterans, and I'm gonna put you in the same category because I feel like you already have a little bit of experience with IMAX. And if you were to do it differently, what's your top tip of what you do differently next time around?
Yeah, so this is only my second year, but I feel like just between my first and second year, I got an idea of...
I mean, you jumped like straight into the things last year. Like if you were to dive to the deep end, that's what you did.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I was like a deer in headlights.
Yes.
There's so much going on the show floor. Honestly, what I changed is I haven't walked around the show floor as much, right? I spent more time in preparation to know where I wanted to go and where I want to be. And I walked around once, one good time. But last time I was just constantly walking and walking. I mean, and it's great to get good exercise and walk around. Yeah. But it's just, it drains you, right? So being more intentional about, all right, I want to make sure I see these people. I want to make sure I go to these places. And otherwise I'll just take in the experience as a whole, but I don't have to be doing all of that all the time.
Exactly.
Right.
So with that in mind, what's one thing that you felt it was so useful for you to pack, or one thing that you'd be like, I won't travel without?
Wow. For me this year, I brought my camera with me. So I'm capturing more and always have my phone in my pocket.
Right.
I'm taking so many more pictures because I miss the opportunity to go back after the fact and remember. It like triggers your memories by looking back and seeing that you took so can we take a picture real quick?
Let's do a selfie.
Here, we're going to do a quick selfie.
Awesome.
Selfie
Here we
right
have
now.
it. Okay.
All right, let's try to make that fast. All right. There we go. All right, got it.
Love it.
I'm gonna remember the conversation we had. All right,
maybe I'll end up in a scissor reel. Who knows?
You definitely will. But what's not going to end up in the sizzle reel is you kicking my butt in those push-ups. Like I'm gonna share.
I am totally going to insert a B-roll moment from our competition.
All right. So what I will say is. All right, I had a couple glasses of wine when we went into those push-ups.
Oh, I see.
Because it was right during cocktail hour.
That was like the disclaimer?
No, it's not a disclaimer. I'm just saying, it was likely for that reason. But as we approached 30 push-ups, which was all we were doing was 30. Usually, I mean, I do 50 every day, just on a normal day, just because. Yeah. Right. And at some point,
double guessing yourself. I'm like, can I finish this?
at some point, I was, up to 80. Right. So 30 push-ups should be nothing.
Yeah.
But as we were approaching 30, you were still going super strong, and I was like, I'm glad we're almost at 30 because if we were maxing out, Anca would kick my butt.
I love it. Well, you know what? This was not to prove a point in any way, shape, or form, or more like for fun, because how it started, it was actually with David, somewhere in the frame there. He challenged me to a push-up competition last IMAX, and then I think in the morning with Julius, you were doing some kind of a kickoff last year, and there came another push-up competition. So that you posted something on LinkedIn about it, and I'm like, I will keep you honest.
Definitely.
Well, I'm so glad we did that. For everyone that's, been tuning in, listening, state your name, the company that you're with, and where would you like our audience to connect with you?
Okay. So LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me. And so I'm going to give you my name and how to find me. I'm Martin Smith, also known as DJ Graffiti, and you can look that up on LinkedIn, put in Martin Smith DJ Graffiti, because I'm sure there's more than one Martin Smith, but I'm the only DJ Graffiti.
You are. And
All
that
right.
was it, a wrap.
All right, thank you, Anca.
Thank you. Courtney, I would love to ask you a question that I've been asking quite a few IMEX veterans. And just out of curiosity, how many times have you attended IMAX?
I have attended IMAX, I think 8 times in Vegas. And then I think that I've been to the Frankfurt show maybe 3 times.
Okay, so a veteran status is somebody that's attended IMAX like maybe 3-5 times.
Yeah.
Where are you on the scale?
I think I'm like tipping the scale. Yeah.
Totally tipping the scale. Which is fantastic.
I love IMAX. It's my favorite industry show of the year. No offense to any of the other ones. I love those ones too. But it's the place where I get to see literally everyone that I would want to see from all corners of the world. So for me, it checks all the right boxes.
I love it. So because you've been attending IMAX for so long, here's one question that I would love to find out more of your insights, your tips. If you were to do IMAX for the first time, because apparently this year there's been so many new people attending IMAX for the very first time. And I remember when I did that myself, it felt a little bit overwhelming and I didn't even know where to start. Like the trade show can be like huge. Just walking it. I mean, I definitely clocked a lot of steps today, okay? So what would you do different that you would like to maybe share with who is watching us?
So my head goes to 2 places. One is the physical experience and one is the mental emotional experience. So I would say from a physical standpoint, comfy shoes, number 1.
Yes.
Like don't bother with heels, throw them out the window unless you're really comfortable with wearing them for a million hours on concrete floors. Keep them at home, or save them for the evening events.
Or put them in your backpack.
I would say from the more mental emotional side of things, especially if you're coming to the show for the first time and you're alone. There are so many different communities and different happy hours that you're more than welcome to join that's open to the public. You don't have to be invited. Find your communities, look at the schedule, look at the happy hours, and just ask yourself the question, do I think I could meet someone here that would be a good friend? And then from there, you're able to just continue to build and see familiar faces and feel a little bit more comfortable. But you're more than welcome to join anything that's happening on the show floor. So don't be afraid to introduce yourself and go somewhere that you think will be a safe space for you.
Absolutely. Do you usually make some kind of a strategy before you even get here where you're like, okay, I know that I want to meet with this people, and then you make a plan, like maybe you introduce yourself on LinkedIn first so that it's easier to meet face to face?
I would say at this point, I would say that I try to figure out where the most people that I want to mingle with will be at one time.
Right.
Because IMAX is such a busy show.
Yes.
There's so much going on. It's really hard to even meet up one-on-one. Everyone's got appointments. They've got speaking engagements. So I try to utilize even the happy hours at the end of the day. Look at, MPI, for example. I know a lot of my community members and friends and relationships are there. So I'm going to hit MPI's booth. I'm going to mingle all around, say hi to everyone I can, and then go to maybe the women in event tech meetup to meet up with them. So I try to really maximize and optimize the community meetups that are happening rather than trying to squeeze in more appointments.
Love it. Now, here's one fun question. If you were to travel with a must-have at this point, after having traveled for so long, what would that be?
At this point, I would say my skincare routine, honestly, is like life. Especially because, I wear a lot of makeup on my camera as a speaker, as a host. So for me, I have to feel clean and fresh before I go to bed at night. I would say that.
Okay, I love it. Well, thank you so much. For anyone that would love to connect with you, what's the best place? But before you do that, just state your name, the organization, your own agency, company, whatever you want to highlight, and where you like to be connected with.
So I'm Courtney Stanley. I'm a keynote speaker, MC, and host of the podcast for Women in Events Dare to Interrupt. You can find me on LinkedIn, definitely. I'm always on there, a little bit of a nerd. Or you can find me on social media at Courtney on Stage.
Love it. High five.
Okay.
Done it. I've been literally chasing people around, asking them this one question. And before we get started, I'm curious, how many IMAXs have you attended in your lifetime?
Probably 6 or 7, and did Frankfurt for the first time earlier this year.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 6 or 7.
So if this were to be your first time IMAX, what would you do differently? And maybe what would you pack that is something that you haven't even thought about in your first few trips?
So for me, something I would pack is potentially like a jump rope and some stuff to be able to do workouts in my room.
Do you actually use it?
Well, so a couple years ago, I was hosted at Vidara, and their gym didn't open until 8 o'clock in the morning. And I had breakfast meetings and I had to work out at 6. Otherwise, I wasn't going to get a workout in. So I had to do jump rope and burpees in my room.
Okay.
So
jump rope.
That's one of the things I would pack, as well as like probably some protein bars and or beef jerky, just to have access to food when I need it. Because there's nothing out here on the show.
You're running in between all these meetings, and if you don't have something healthy, like I literally just ate some nuts that I feel like they're still in my teeth, but I needed to get
something. Some mouth spray.
I guess from Julius. Okay, so what would you do different from like a strategy point of view if this was your first time at?
Yeah, take advantage of the education. I think that the challenge with, depending on how you're here, if you're a hosted buyer, you have to hit your appointments, right?
Right.
But with that, sometimes you end up doing all your appointments and kind of missing out on education. So I would build your agenda with an education focus first, and then backfill your appointments accordingly. That's where you're going to get your real value. And if you're sourcing and you want to get some RFPs out, great. But if you can focus on the education, that's what's going to make you a better planner. So put the education sessions first in your agenda, then backfill your time with your appointment.
Okay, for our audience, state your name, who you're with, or what you want to highlight, and where they can find you.
Sure. I'm David T. Stevens. I'm at David T. Stevens on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and whatnot. I am the 5-time fittest male event professional. Find me on LinkedIn, David T. Stevens.
And you have a show?
Yes, I'm also the host of a show called Return on Wellness that justifies the business expense of incorporating wellness into your events and why it's important to do so.
High five. I do high fives. Sebi, I am so excited to be here on the trade show with you. I am looking forward to this conversation because I know that you have done IMAX quite a few times, and my goal for this, snippet podcast episode is to get the top level tips from event professionals that are basically IMEX veterans. So right off the bat, how many times have you been at IMAX, just from what you can remember?
I would say 7 to 8 times as a former hotelier and also as an event planner. So it's a blessing to be here. This show is very near and dear to our hearts. It's a place that we can all connect, we can create, we see our friends, our colleagues, and the beauty of this show is all about like the international market. We see people coming from different parts of the world, and it's a melting pot. When I walk around and I see all this diversity, everyone speaks different languages, like it's so amazing to be here. So I am very grateful to be with you and also with our friends.
I love it. So since you've been around the block quite a few times, and by now you're quite an IMAX pro, I am curious. I'm curious, if you were to do this for the first time, what would you do differently?
There are a few things that I do consider, even now as a planner, when I'm just choosing the appointments mindfully. I think it really matters. Giving yourself enough time in between appointments. This is a huge trade show. Being able to get to the appointments with integrity, not being late, showing up with not stressed, just looking around and trying to find your booth, and also respecting the suppliers because they have another appointment after us and there are people standing in line. So I always give myself that window of like getting to my appointment in a timely manner. And also, in the past, I used to book a ton of appointments, and you go home with thousands of business cards and you don't even remember who you spoke to. So I'm just being more mindful of like, what am I working on at the moment? Having more deeper and meaningful conversations with those suppliers, and just creating that opportunity to create business and working together and create that partnership. So I would say the quality really matters more than quantity, and being able in that space of like, what can I bring to the table, and what you bring to the table, and what can we create together collectively.
I love it. Being able to be at the top level of your performance, meeting all the suppliers and hosted buyers, what are some of your tips to stay healthy and well?
I have a few.
Okay, go for it.
One of the biggest one for me is hydration. Hydration. We're all constantly talking, and we don't understand that how much our body is consuming all of that. So I carry my bottled water. Luckily, we are so sustainable on this show. They're offering all these reusable water bottles for us to be able to put our water in. So I drink a lot of water, hot water, cold water, whatever that is. And also sleep. You know, we have a lot of people that they're coming from different destination, different time zone. People are tired, they're traveling. So sleep is really, really important. Just be kind to each other. People get grumpy when they're not sleeping and they're not eating and they're thirsty.
We don't know anyone.
Yeah. Maintaining those three, I really think it really matters. And also, for me as a breathwork practitioner, I wake up in the morning and I do a few breaths. Like I do my breathwork, I relax into my body. I want to show up my 100% on
Okay, show me how you do that in like 3-5 breaths.
Okay.
Walk me through it.
Okay. So one of the things that I do, I always relax to my body. And people ask me, how do I relax to my body? Think about something that really makes you feel relaxed. I think about my mom. When I cuddle with my mom, I'm like, oh my God, I love this feeling. Some people think about their dog, their cat, their children, their spouses, their partner, whatever that is, or even a place. You know, you've been to a place and it really gives you that sense of calmness. That's what you can do. And then also, I close my eyes. Once I get to my happy place, I take a deep breath from my mouth and release all the way from here.
Doesn't matter the count?
No. Do like mouth breathing, nose breathing. The count applies when I do deep inhale from your mouth and I hold the breath and I count to 10 and then I release it all the way. So 10 mouth breathing, deep inhale, deep exhale. The hold is gonna happen. Deep inhale from your mouth, hold it on top of your head, count to 10, release, and then 10 nose breathing. Deep inhale, deep exhale. We put the body from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So that's how we regulate that.
Curious about the study that was done about breathwork. I'm totally going off topic here, but it's so fascinating. So there's a study that was done. The most calming effect on your anxiety level is this 4-7-8 formula, where you inhale for 4, hold for 7, and then exhale for 8.
Yes. There are different modalities. This specific modality that I work on is called somatic breathwork. There are other ways of doing that if you want to get quick release. If you are just in the anxiety state of being, like they say, double inhale. And you hold. You hold all the way to the top and you release. There's so many different ways, and it's not this or that. It's
I feel like we need to do a podcast episode, just not this alone. I think our time is running out. I see our friend here, the potty scientist, is getting ready to set up for his talk. So, Sepi, if anybody has questions about this breath work and want to connect with you, where should they do that? But before you do that, just state your name and company that you're with, and then where you'd like to be connected with.
Absolutely. I'm Sepideh Eivazi, Director of Global Accounts with Elevated Meeting Solutions. You can find me on elevatedmeetingsolutions.com, and we do have an Instagram page that you can reach out to us, and you can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn, Sepideh Eivazi. Thank you so much for having me.
It's always nice to see you. All right, Leanne, how are you doing after 3 days of IMAX? I mean, do you feel energized or do you feel completely like that tired?
So, well, as an introvert, I'm starting to get a little tired, Anca. I cannot lie, but I am finding some pockets of space in between appointments to get some rest and stay hydrated.
I love it. Okay, so here's what I've been asking a lot of the, IMAX veterans. I came up with this name for anyone that has attended IMAX more than twice. So if you were to look back at all the experiences that you've had with IMAX, because you're very passionate about attending it, there's a reason for it. I am curious, what would you do differently? Or maybe just share some of your top tips. How could you take advantage of the amazing opportunities that are here, but also could also be so overwhelming for a lot of people, like you just mentioned.
It is, and it's such a big show, and I've been coming since it started in Vegas, so I want to say that was 2012, so I've been coming every year, of course, except for the pandemic years. And the thing I've learned over the years is to be extremely intentional about who it is that you want to see.
Yeah.
So I have a list of people, and so when I go home tomorrow,
everyone on that list will have a check mark beside their name. And what that did is it reduced the, I suppose, the precipice for me to say, oh, I wish I met that person, or I wish I talked to that person. So I made that list in advance. I've been making it for the last few weeks. And then scheduling your appointments so the appointments are close to one another, almost like time blocking different parts of the floor or different parts of your day or even different parts of your week, just to take the stress off of your feet and also the stress off of just that running on the treadmill and getting to and from places. I found those are the two biggest lifesavers for me here on the floor.
I love it. When I saw your post on LinkedIn, and I actually loved it because I'm like, wow, somebody's actually really thinking about how to do this strategically, because I kind of ran into the same problem last year. I remember, like, I didn't necessarily look at the map when I was setting my appointments, and then I was literally going in zigzag the whole time. And I mean, there has to be a method to this madness, but at least as a strategy, it made me feel more empowered that I actually took charge of the situation.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. It's never going to be perfect because everyone's availability is different. But at least setting that intention will create a little bit of white space in your calendar as you're running to and fro.
I love it. So here's another question. What is one thing that you would not travel without?
Oh my goodness. Well, I need a better IMAX trade show floor bag. I have my laptop bag, but it is not ready for this trade show floor. And I've been seeing people carry those weekender bags around where they put their extra shoes in the bottom and then everything on top. So next year, friends and family, I am bringing a weekender bag for the trade show floor to put my extra shoes so that I can still show up with heels, but at least have a comfy pair of shoes underneath. So.
Especially if you have back-to-back appointments during the day and you want to wear something comfortable, but then you want to go to a networking event that's a little bit more dressy. Shoes is everything.
It's
like
everything. It
is.
Totally
I love it.
So.
Well, for our audience, state your name, your company, and where they can find you.
Absolutely. My name is Leanne Calderwood. I'm a trainer and speaker around LinkedIn and personal branding in the meetings and events industry. And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest place, or over at my blog at leannecalderwood.com.
I love it.
So,
high five.
Thank you. This is awesome. Thank you.
Miguel, such a pleasure to have you here. By now, I'm pretty sure you're pretty wiped out, not talking about jet lag, right? But you've also been attending IMAX and being part of IMAX for so many years. How many years?
10.
10 years. Okay, you're like beyond veteran level at this point. And I loved one article that you wrote just recently, actually. If you were to do IMAX as a brand new attendee, you were actually very intentional about going in different topics of what you should do well. And that actually sparked this idea. I have a lot of my friends attending for the first time, and I realized, actually, I wish there was a guide when I attended for the first time so I don't feel so overwhelmed. So here's my question to you. If you were to do it for the first time, what would you do different? Like, what would be your top tips? And I know you already shared some of it, but I would just summarize some of the things that you already been very open about.
Sure. So I think it's all about the preparation. If you can see a video or kind of get some idea of what IMAX is like, because there is that overwhelming factor. You walk in the door and it's big. There are much larger trade shows, but because IMAX is all about meetings, it's all about sitting next to each other and sort of talking. There aren't a lot of like products on display. It's not like you go to the auto show and there's cars and stuff. It's like, no, there's just chairs and people sitting. So it's very compact. It's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things going on. So it can be very overwhelming. So I think my best tips is really to try and prepare as much as you can and try to sort of map out what you're going to do and really map it out physically. Because I know you might want to get a bit of exercise walking around the show floor, but I'd rather not walk half a mile in between my appointments. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when you book appointments, if you can at all book appointments next to each other for the same period, I would definitely do that. And that involves kind of looking at the show floor plan and then looking through your appointments and kind of mapping that out. So being quite intentional and making sure you sort of understand.
And doing it fast, because let me tell you, this time around, I was late to the game and I was all for that strategy, trying to like map out just a quarter of the meeting space, trade show floor for each one of the days. But then I ran into the problem of like people not having availability anymore. So if you can jump on that calendar the first time it opens, then it's the best way to go about. And I love that you brought that up.
I would also do this, even if you're not attending as a hosted buyer, I would still follow the same strategy because you can still book meetings, through email or whatever, and just kind of try to figure that out. I would also make sure you leave some time for lunch.
Yeah.
Leave a half an hour for just sitting somewhere, checking your emails.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing is if you're sort of stressing throughout the whole day, reading half an email on your phone and kind of doing that.
You're not present.
Exactly. You want to kind of be present. You want to say, hey, put your out of office on, kind of say, look, I'm doing this show, I'm going to do it right. I mean, if you think about the amount of money and kind of personal time that you invest in being here, if you're not fully present, you're not really maximizing that. And so I know a lot of people are like, oh, business has to keep going. Like, I understand that, but as much as possible, kind of open that schedule up, really be focused, and be really intentional, I think there's other things, like when you're here, I don't talk a lot of business when I'm here.
Yeah.
As strange as that might sound, I talk relationships. I talk about, hey, what's happening in your world? What's happening in your world? Okay, cool. And then there's a sort of like, maybe there's a synergy there.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And then the follow-up is super important.
That's awesome.
Afterwards, kind of like connect again, remind everybody of the conversation you had. Send an email saying, hey, really enjoyed talking about this. Do you think you have the time in the next couple of weeks to, follow up, something like that? I think that's a much preferred approach rather than, walking on here trying to close business, trying to be like super objective. It's a very people's business. Like, you want to just get time to hang out. And I think as much as possible, have some time to really connect with people.
I love that.
Because you can walk around the show floor and shake hands with thousands of people, but you're not really connecting, right? You got a business card, maybe you did this, you said hello, you sort of put a face to the name, but people aren't going to remember you like that, right? You need to have a little bit of a connection for people to remember. And of course, you need to explain what you do, right?
Right.
But you don't want to force it down people's throats. You're going to be like, this is the kind of thing that I'm interested in. This is what I'm looking for.
I love it. Cool. So I also know that you're into wellness and staying, healthy. What have you done to try to keep that at bay? Like, I know for me, like, for example, nutrition suffers when I'm here, but I kind of have to give in and be like, I'm here for just 3 days. I'm going to try to do my best with what I have, but I'm not going to like punish myself mentally that I didn't keep my macros where they're supposed to be. What do you do to keep yourself in balance with everything that's happening?
So I'm definitely not at the fitness level or nutrition level that you are. This is a very much a beginner's perspective, but I think I've really limited my alcohol consumption.
Okay, that's good.
I've had maybe a couple of glasses of wine each night, which is already more than I would normally have at home.
Yeah.
But, you could go crazy here, right? You could just...
True. I mean, there's so much free alcohol. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
And so also I've been quite jet lagged. I'm 9-hour time difference for me. So I've been going to bed as early as I can. So like 9 o'clock, I'm kind of in bed if I can.
Yeah.
But then I'm waking up at 3, right? Like, body just says, you're up now.
Yeah.
And so, I've been working. I've been trying to kind of be active as much as possible.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really about controlling that and trying not to eat really sort of fatty or sugary stuff all the time. Trying to have somewhat like, there are salads on the show floor. They're not best salads in the world, but it's still better than having a cheap sandwich or something like that. So I think just sort of maintaining kind of level-headed, and I guess I'm a little bit spoiled. I have been to quite a few of these events, and there's other events around the year, and so I guess that sort of novelty factor has worn off enough that it's easy enough for me to refuse, champagne and this and stuff. I'm like, okay, I would actually love a glass of water, and I think that just keeps you a little bit more stable. Like, I'm going home, I'm tired, don't get me wrong, but I'm okay. I'm not hungover, I don't have a headache, I'm not completely dehydrated, I'm okay.
That's awesome. Well, for all of our audience, would you state your name, your company, and where they connect with you?
Sure. So Miguel Neves, I'm editor-in-chief at Skip Meetings, and I'm on LinkedIn, so that would probably be a great place to connect with me. But if you'd like to subscribe to Skip Meetings, all our content is free, so I encourage you to do so.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I really appreciate the time and the fact that you made this happen.
Thank you very much.
We do high fives here.
Okay.
Nice. Tahira, I had to invite you to my hotel room just because IMAX felt too much. Just trying to find you, run from left and right, up and down all the time. I don't even know how many steps you did. So I'm curious, just out of curiosity for anyone who's listening, how many IMAXs have you done and how many different roles have you had?
This was my 16th IMAX. So all the Americas, a few Frankfurts, and I started out as I've done so many things. So I started out as an exhibitor. We built the Vancouver booth originally in the year 1, and then I've I've been a supplier, I've been a buyer. I have worked for Quick Mobile in the olden days before they became part of Cvent when we built the app. So the technology supplier,
side,
the speaker, I've led the technology tours, and now I work there.
Oh my goodness. So because this year apparently there's been some record high numbers for attendees, hosted buyers, and just what I would call free floaters. 30 to 40%, apparently the numbers are still telling for brand new IMAX attendees. A lot of my friends actually that I've been connecting with on LinkedIn came to IMAX for the first time this year. And I remember when I first came, it felt a little overwhelming, to be honest, the least, right? The trade show is large. If you don't have some kind of a strategy to figure out where you're going, who you're meeting, it can definitely feel like, I remember having an anxiety attack day 1 at 9 a.m. because I'm running late for my first meeting, and I just hate being late. So from all the experience that you've had, all the years that you've been at IMAX, you've planned all the programming for IMAX, what would be your few top tips, either from a first-time attendee or maybe a first-time hosted buyer, first-time supplier? There, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
It sounds ridiculous, but it's all about the shoes. And it's it's so great now because now we don't need to wear high heels anymore. For years.
Oh my gosh, you used to have high heels on?
Everybody did. Everybody. So now, of course, we don't do that anymore because we had this whole athleisure movement.
Right.
So it is about the shoes. It's shoes and water. Like those are the two top things. When people are booking their appointments, though, so for the buyers who are coming, if you understand that the show is basically built geographically. So there's the technology, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, everybody has a region, EMEA. So if you can book so that you kind of stay in a geographical region of the world for your appointments, then that's also going to mean that you're going to be in a geographic region on the show floor. So it's easier to get between your appointments. And you can do that for a morning, for an afternoon, for a day. It's just always, so it makes it pretty easy to navigate. And the show's actually really easy to navigate once you kind of look up, because all the aisle markers are there. There's people will be like, I can't find Hilton, and I'm like, the large
sign over.
So, but there's a lot of overhead signs. There's a lot of that was the one that was most in our eyesight. So, bathrooms and food are on the outside, and everything else is geographical on the inside.
So I noticed this year actually technology moved from the inside onto the outside. Was that like an intentional move?
It's about keeping things together.
So that was the idea. All right. That's a great tip, because I remember the first time I was trying to go about it, I was like, I'm going to go in basically thirds or quarters. And I'm just going to divide it. Now, here's the problem with that. If you don't get on that appointment portal, like the first moment it opens, a lot of those appointments that you think you're going to be able to book depend very much on the other side's availability, right? So you think you're going to be, okay, I'm going to do like, I don't know, A, B, C. I'm going to stay within just those letters for the first part of the day, and then because moving from F to A and then having to go back.
It's like a 6 or 7 minute walk across the floor. Yeah,
exactly.
Easily.
So any other tips as far as first timers, especially anyone that felt like they had all these appointments, but then also didn't get that much time to actually enjoy the content, and the educational content was amazing?
So it's, we suggest that there's 6 to 8 appointments a day. So if you look at those being sort of 30-minute appointments, that still leaves you with pretty much half the day that you can get something to eat, that you can run into and have hallway collisions, and that you can come and see the content. And the majority of the content is in 30-minute increments.
So you can put it in between.
Yeah, and so we also did some super sessions this year. So we had some 60 to 75-minute sessions that you could come in and out of them. So you didn't have to necessarily stay. Or we had an association power hour.
Nice.
So if you were an association planner, you got to go and see 4 super smart people in that space, And if you blocked that hour of your day, then that was the first hour, and then you could go and easily do your appointments after that. So we tried to really be thoughtful to think about how people could move through the show.
I also love the fact that some sessions were actually a repeat from the first day to the second day, so that if you did miss the first day, actually I went back the second day and being part of that because I might have had appointments blocked during that time. All right, what is one thing that you travel with nowadays that you know what you know that you didn't used to?
I travel with everything. I travel in carry-on generally.
I think you have one of the coolest actually carry-ons. What is it? Because I remember one time you posted on
It's like the
Instagram.
Carry-on closet.
Yeah, that just like keeps on growing.
Yeah, it's amazing actually. So it's called Soul Guard, the suitcase. But yeah, it's super helpful. There's a few that are like that now, but it's great. It's just about having layers, right? So because you can always be places that are hot and cold. Right. And then I also pretty much travel with like a small pharmacy of things because you just don't know when you might get, a sore throat or a headache or whatever you might get. So, and sometimes that's not always easy to find the thing in the middle of the night. So echinacea, tea tree, 2 standbys.
All right. Well, that was that. For anyone that does not know who Tahira is, would you say your name, current role, and where would you like to connect with you?
Tahira Endean, head of program for IMEX. I'm very easy to find. There's not like a lot of Tahiras or a lot of Tahira Endeans. So you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me by email. It's really easy.
Well, I really appreciate this time. Thank you so much for making it happen. And I usually end those with like a high five.
High five.
High five. And that push-up context, I heard that you're really gonna smoke us next year.
There's zero chance that I'm going to smoke you, but I'm going to make an attempt to do 10 solid push-ups. That's going to be my goal.
Are you ready here? Want to do it?
10. Oh God! What the hell?
1, 2, 3, go. Come on, Tahira. You can do it. 5 more.
Oh, crazy lady.
And she ended up with an
Look at her. Yes, that was awesome. Woo! Now, that's what I call the end of a good podcast session.
Thank you for listening to the Events Demystified podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to review it, rate it, and share it with other event professionals that could benefit from it. Connect with us on social at Events Demystified Podcast. We would love to hear from you and what you're up to. If you'd like to learn more about Trifan Event Services and find out if we're a good fit in supporting your event, can we help your event be successful with a 20-minute free consultation? Link in the episode's notes. Thanks for tuning in.